Hello and welcome to the Sheffield Hopcast. I'm James. Now, if you're listening last week, you'll know that this week's episode is one that is very close to my heart for many and varied reasons. So today should be the final of Eurovision 2020 in Rotterdam over in the Netherlands. Of course, it's not happening, but that's fine because we can go one better. So we can create our own Eurovision. I should have planned this a bit better and have some like Eurovision games and stuff like that we could have done as well, although I'm not sure if you guys would be quite as on board with that as I would enjoy. But anyway, so we're going for, that is the beer theme. It is Eurovision. It's very loose. It's very open. It'll be interesting to see how our gang has interpreted it. We have a guest with us as well this week. We'll meet him in a minute or two. First of all, let's go to Adam, who I think every week that we've recorded, Adam, you've either been in a different room or you've painted that wall about 50 times now. Different colours.
I'm back in our room, but I've gone to another 90-degree angle because there's a little bit more leg room at the end of the bed last time. So I literally had such a spread.
You've gone Barry White on us. It's happened again.
I've gone Barry White on you.
Yeah.
Oh,
sing us a song, Adam. Sing us a song.
We just start again.
This is our most professional beginning to an episode ever. So about 4 weeks ago, you might have heard it. Adam had some kind of technical breakdown, or maybe it was just an emotional breakdown in the middle of an episode and went about 2 octaves lower. We now always get him to test his microphone before the episode. It was fine, like literally a minute ago, and it's all gone wrong. We'll see whether or not we
is it any better?
Adam back.
Yeah.
I just changed it to something else and then back to this again.
That's
No,
better.
you sound human again now. It'd be great one week if it went in the other direction. You went a bit chipmunk on us. We'd like that.
I'll see what I can do.
Brill. So what is your interpretation of Eurovision?
Well, I struggled a little bit because I left it a little bit late. Then I had an idea and then I changed my mind. So my idea first was, this is my second beer, love and hate, because I hate that type of music, but I absolutely love watching Eurovision. So it's kind of I have a love-hate relationship with the thing.
Yeah, that's honestly, that would have worked.
Yeah, but I'm not going to have that.
Right.
I thought I'd just go for something different. I think we might have done love and hate at some point. So this is Northern Monk's Tidal. It's a citrus zest and sea salt goes, and I just thought it, like Eurovision, bright, colourful, zesty, bit salty, probably at the end of the night. I just thought it was something that kind of, loosely kind of made me think about.
I can see the connection there because it's a bit. Yeah. It's kind of like Mad as a Goose, isn't it? And Eurovision is, kind of along the same sort of lines. Yeah. All right, that's a decent start. So that's Adam's interpretation of the Eurovision theme. Let's see what Laura's come up with. And, of course, Laura, every week so far, has had a beer-themed attire on. This week, I think, is no exception, but you're probably going to have to explain it to us.
Yeah, so I've taken the theme quite, I've just gone European. So that applies to my T-shirt. So also my T-shirt is it's a little hop on a motorbike, and it is I bought this at the Homebrewers Market at Carnival Britannomyces in Amsterdam last year, and it's from a teeny tiny little brewery called Fermentery Van Dam, which is in North Brabant, which is in the Netherlands. I'm really sorry if I've pronounced that terribly. So European brewer attire, and I've gone German crispy Hackeshaw Keller beer and Stein.
Oh, taking influence from Dan.
Yes, copying Dan the other week. But yeah, I just thought it's obviously a European beer style, a classic, and it's the kind of thing that I like to drink at a party, such as Eurovision. So that's my interpretation today. I think I've done better on this interpretation than Bank Holiday.
I also think that you'll probably do better opening that beer than Sean did with his bottle top last week.
Did you hear the pop? That was very satisfying.
Oh, he's got
a new one.
Right.
It's a totem pole.
Right, I'm just looking around to see whether or not I've got a fiver knocking about, because I'm willing to bet £5 that Sean's gone for a Belgian beer. Am I right?
Yes.
That means you owe me £5. That was the deal.
I'm afraid I hate Eurovision. Is that fair? I hate it.
So you hate Belgian beers?
I think that what's it normally on, about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
So over the years, what I've tended to do is go to the pub just before it starts, and then try and get back in from the pub just as the point scoring is about to kick off. The point scoring is brilliant. I really enjoy that. But all that entertainment in between, absolutely rubbish. But you're right, James. I have gone for a Belgian beer. I like Europe. I like that sort of geographical element to things. My favourite European country is France, but Belgium is a very close second. Belgium clearly wins on the beer front, but I didn't really prep it very well. This weekend, I'm enjoying a Welbeck Abbey mini keg for the weekend, and for the life of me, I couldn't jam in a chocolate stout from Welbeck into Eurovision. So I've had to raid my rare beers box, and so I've gone for a very famous beer from Belgium. It's West Vleteren 12. I've got a couple of these that were very kindly given to me by Bob Callard, one of our customers from Sheffield, a few years back. This is a 2018 version, actually. So a famous beer. I've had it a couple of times before, but I've never had a full bottle to myself. So I'm going to open this now with, it is a totem pole, Adam.
Is it?
This is from Ireland. And so all these are leprechauns. And that fits in nicely because for the first 12 years of my life, I was called Sean the leprechaun by everybody that I met. So we've got a stack of leprechauns. And watch, Laura. Easy.
So just I went back and watched how long it took you to open it last week. Is it 1 minute? Was it 1 minute 17 or 1 minute 9? That's how long it took you to open it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't mind. I didn't get too impatient, but I did enjoy it. But not as much as I'm going to enjoy this beer, I'm sure.
Stuff.
We also didn't follow up on the competition that we said we were going to do to give away that bottle opener, so we will do that again at some point soon. These lockdown episodes, Sean, have been absolutely disastrous for your secret stash of beer because every week you get and have to rate it. You can have nothing left in it by the end of lockdown.
I've got to admit, by the time we get to Friday at work, I'm not really giving the weekend much thought. I'm just happy to get things all finished and done. And then I tend to get home Friday, because we're now closed on a Saturday, of course. Normally we're recording this on a Sunday. I have to start thinking then. So next week I'll write it down early. What's the theme next week? I don't even know the theme, but
I think we've got one.
I'll write it down early. I'll get something.
We'll let you come up with the theme. You can be thinking about that, and we'll announce that at the end of the episode. Right then, so I have also gone along a European route. Similar to Adam, I originally had a beer in mind, a Whiplash beer, because of course they're from Ireland, and you think of Ireland, you think of Eurovision. They're the country that have won it the most number of times. So I was going to go with that, and then I thought, do you know the thing about Eurovision is that it's about being a bit loud and a bit bold and a bit out there. So I thought I would go for a beer to match. Now, anyone that watched Eurovision last year, the Netherlands won, but everyone knows that the true winner was Norway. They won the public vote, but obviously it's part public, part juries. It was the jury vote that swayed it. But by an absolute landslide, Norway won the public vote. So I've gone for a brewery from Norway. This is from Amundsen, and this is is it called Zygote?
Oh yes.
And I think this is relatively new. So it is, if I'm hold that up properly, it's a salted caramel chip chop cookie stout, and it weighs in at a very modest 10.5%. And I just thought it was a bit loud, flamboyant, a bit over the top. And that's kind of what Eurovision is all about. And I do love Amundsen's just insane stouts. They really are the kings of the dessert in a can and all that kind of stuff. I think they're absolutely brilliant. So looking forward to this one and raising a glass to Eurovision. So our guest this week is Darren Hebden. Darren, firstly, are you actually in a pub? Because it's not
like it. It looks
Is
like
it
a pub.
I thought you were when I first saw it. It's got that kind of the glasswork and the.
Yeah, it has. It's like I think it's
got-
like
Yeah.
the wooden frames that give it a bit of a pub look.
I've not really thought of it like that, but yeah, I'll take that. That's a compliment.
So, Darren, we sort of know you from a Facebook group called Beer Club, which you post in. And I, for one, always look forward to any posts that you put on where you do your little selfies in the pub, which are great. So it's brilliant to have you on the podcast. So, same as the rest of us, you set the challenge of a Eurovision-themed beer. So, what have you got?
Well, my feelings about Eurovision are quite similar to Sean's feelings about Eurovision, I'm afraid. Longest 3 hours of the year. Unfortunately, my partner absolutely loves it, so I have to put up with it. 3 hours of the year I never get back.
Excellent.
So I struggled to think of a bit of a tenuous link with Eurovision. So I had a look through my stash, and I had this Baltic Porter, which I thought was close. But then Sean had mentioned something about homebrewing. So I dug out the Saison I made myself a few weeks ago. So I thought I'd give that one a go and see what we think of that. Anything could happen. It might gush everywhere as soon as I open it. So take cover.
A bit like Eurovision.
Exactly.
It could gush everywhere a bit like Eurovision.
No, you never know what's going to happen. Kind of.
Well, it fizzed, so that's a start.
You're right, Adam. It gushes for 3 hours long. It
Yeah,
loves
exactly.
itself. Actually, James, your beer is a world-class beer, and that's where the comparison with Eurovision ends, because that's just a bunch of amateurs singing cheesy pop songs for 3 hours, whereas that's a professional proper beer.
What you don't seem to crash on is that's the joy of Eurovision. That's the good. I mean, Eurovision in recent years it's gone quite upmarket. It's quite professional now. Like the songs are actually quite good, and that sort of ruins it. But there's always one country that enters. Like the Ireland, the year that Ireland entered Turkey, there's always something a bit nuts going on with Eurovision, and that's what makes it Eurovision. So we had last week. Obviously, Sean, you had a homebrew beer. Was that last week or was it the year before? And that was another.
Week, yeah.
That was another podcast first, because we've never had a homebrew beer before. And then another first here with Darren, not only a homebrew beer, but your own homebrew beer.
So that seems a bit ridiculously arrogant.
We have a better time, really, though, I suppose. Lockdown, and we've talked about it, a lot of people, reverting to doing homebrew. But have you found that your homebrew consumption's gone up then, or?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I've been trying to keep on top of the proper stuff as well, but the mostly homebrew, I'm afraid. Furlough money.
Don't be afraid, Darren. So, how did you learn to homebrew? How long have you been homebrewing? How does that work?
I've been homebrewing about 18 months, but taking it back right from the start, I spent probably 10 years not drinking at all, believe it or not. And then my brother and my brother-in-law Chris sent me this up from Nottingham. It's a beer he brewed with Lincoln Green Brewery to raise money for Bowel Cancer UK after he lost his dad. And it kind of got me right back onto the slippery slope. Drank that, liked it, found myself going down the brewed punk route, and then somehow found myself in Sean's shop. And really, that was the end of all hope for me. Sold me a can of Axe Edge, a bottle of Axe Edge as it was then, and I've been hooked ever since. In terms of brewing, something I've picked up through some of the beer club people that it seemed easier than it sounded. Did a few kits from your off-the-shelf stuff that were rubbish. Then gradually got into the old grain through some 1 gallon batches, and this is one of those.
So how difficult? I sort of think about brewing something like a saison. So you think about brewing something like an IPA or a pale ale, and you think, well, it's just some hops. But brewing something like a saison just sounds like it's going to be harder. It's going to be really complicated, like it's quite involved. How difficult is it to do something like that?
I'll tell you what, I cut more corners with this beer than any other brew I've ever made. I found the kit in the attic. I bought it a couple of years ago, forgot to brew it at the time, or didn't get around to brewing it. And then when I finished work for the lockdown, went into the attic, did a bit of a tidy up, found the kit, miles out of date. So I thought, well, I've nothing to lose. I'm just going to do it on the stovetop. Even the yeast was out of date. Didn't chill the work properly, just left it to chill on its own. Got it packaged up and left it a couple of weeks, and it tastes a bit like a saison. So happy with that.
I think it must be incredibly hard to like review your own beer if you brewed it yourself. Like drinking someone else's beer, you can be, you know, if you need to be a bit harsh, you'd be a bit harsh. You just say, "But it's just not my kind of thing." You brewed it yourself. I think I'd always want to play down how good one of my own beers would be, because you wouldn't want to kind of appear to be like a bit arrogant about it. But at the same time, you won't want to say anything bad about your own beer. So it would be interesting at the end of the episode to get your take on that.
James, I always think that's difficult for a brewery as well. We could ask Laura here particularly, but do all breweries or brewers have to like the beer that they've brewed? Do they have to?
I don't think you have to like it. I think you have to know that it tastes as it should and does the job that it was intended to do, if that makes sense. You know, everybody obviously has different tastes, so I guess smaller breweries with only one brewer might make I think tend to make generally kind of smaller ranges of things, whereas, you know, we at Abbeydale, for example, we have a fairly large brew team. There's about six brewers who all have their own kind of preferred beer styles and things, so that's quite nice, because you know, we don't all like all of the beers, but we're all kind of trained to understand and appreciate them rather than like them, I think. And I think that's important, because you don't want to be sending out a beer that's, you know, that's below par or anything like that. So I think you have to believe in your beer, if that makes sense, without necessarily liking it, I would say. But I think I'd add as well, most of the home brewers that I know, and to be honest, a lot of commercial brewers, are always their own biggest critics. I think it's easy to know exactly what you wanted and pick kind of on the things that aren't quite as you wanted them to be in your own beer. And I know certainly a lot of the homebrew community who've moved to set up their own breweries are some of the most humble people in beer that I know. They're making absolutely fantastic stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's okay. I'm pretty happy with it." You're like, it's phenomenal. So I think it's easier to like things maybe that you didn't make yourself. That was long. It wasn't. Sorry.
So, thinking back to Funkfest, James, and Laura, actually, you ran like a homebrew competition at Funkfest, didn't you? So you had a niche festival with a niche competition, but then even that was categorized into like categories, wasn't it? So it wasn't like just bring any funky beer. It was like you say, I can't remember what they were now, but they were like what four categories or something.
Yeah. There was testing my memory now. There was like a simple sour, sort of kettle sours and things like that. Yeah. There's mixed fermentation one. There's definitely a saison category. Yeah. But we had over 50 people that entered that, which was.
But some of those were great.
Yeah.
We were dishing them out.
Through that, because the guy who won, the prize was to come and brew it on the main kit. We were supposed to be making it Easter weekend, but obviously with lockdown and everything, we're on a very strict no visitor policy at the minute, so we've had to postpone it, but it will be happening.
Excellent.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder whether or not, as a brewer, whether it's actually slightly easier to make a beer that maybe you don't like or is not the style that you go for, because you can be more kind of if it's a beer that you really like, you're not going to want to change it too much, because you're like, no, I like it like this. Whereas, you know, if the feedback is, it needs to be a little bit more this or a little bit more that, and it's something that's not your kind of style, then you can take all that feedback on board. Objective maybe is the word that I'm looking for.
There's also the thing, like you're gonna have brewers who come into the team who probably didn't start there when said, you know, for example, you could think of any classic beer, Jaipur, or moonshine or Farmer's Blonde or whatever. You know, it makes them the money. You don't have to like it, I suppose. At some point, you might have thought it was a great beer, but as time moves on, but people are still buying it. You know, it's not really up to you if you don't like it. Why would you stop producing it if everyone's kind of still enjoying it and buying it? So I suppose there's that kind of angle to it. As a brewer, you just kind of, you know, just making sure that the quality is, you know, up to par, and making sure everybody else enjoys it, I suppose.
That's definitely true. I mean, last year, Adam, you and I hosted a few Meet the Brewer events in tents at Peak Ender, and certainly, a couple of the brewers there were quite honest about, not being that fussed about some of the beers that they make, but realizing that they've got to do that because it sells, and that allows them then to make the kind of the one-offs and the collaborations and the stuff that they really do.
Bread and
like.
butter beers, isn't it?
You what? Sorry.
The bread and butter beers.
I guess it is, yeah, absolutely. On that subject, of course, this week, Peak Ender became the latest event, I think just yesterday or the day before, to announce that it's not going to take place this year, which probably wasn't a surprise. Tramlines, a few days before, made the same announcement, and I kind of feel it's pretty much safe to say that probably every event this year is going to be under threat. One of the events that I tend to go to, which is a thing called Summer Beer Thing in Manchester, which is a one-day beer festival that they hold there. That should be pretty much any time now, I think, probably the next month or two. They for now have just postponed that, pushed it back to August. I kind of feel it's probably been optimistic, and that this year it's just probably not going to happen, is it? And you look at stuff like Sheffield Beer Festival is quite late on in the year, but with the way things have panned out in the last few weeks, the idea that maybe social distancing might be done and dusted by then seems like it's a bit of a fairy tale, isn't it? I think we've got to, for all of us, kind of get our head around the idea that we're probably not going to have any beer events this year, and that's really sad. It's going to be my first year going to Fine Fest this year. I was really excited about that, and that's not going to be able to go ahead, although it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? So I guess out of all of them, it's probably got the most chance. But I think we've just got to accept it, haven't we?
Yeah. Have we talked about the Beer 52 thing that did their like virtual beer festival? I mean, they did one a few weeks ago where you could buy like 2 days. I think they had Meet the Brewer stuff, virtual stuff that you paid for a ticket, you got sent out. I think it was either a box of 12 or you could get a box of 24 to kind of split you over the 2 days. The beers were in it were really good, and the value was pretty good, I suppose. My friend did attend the first round, but with that successful, they are doing another one. So I think you can buy tickets for that now. But I think the beers alone looked fairly decent value for what it cost. I think it was a Beer 52 one, but interesting kind of move to doing that in the meantime. I suppose you're still getting that interactivity with peers and getting potential talks from breweries and stuff. So it's probably maybe it's worth a look at for the next one. But
I'm actually just trying to find it now on the website. I'll dig around, see if I can find it, and I'll report back on it.
52, Adam, definitely. I saw it online about a month ago. It was Beers 52.
Cyberfest 2, yes. So it is in, let me have a look. So it's in June, actually. It's only a few weeks away. So the 5th and the 6th of June. It's not actually the cheapest. So for the 2 individual days, for the 12 beers for the Friday, it's £35. And then for the 12 beers for the Saturday, it's £35 as well. But then if you do the 2 days, £65. So you make a bit of a saving there. So £65 for 24 beers, I guess is probably not that bad. And you get, I guess, a weekend of entertainment as well.
Yeah, you get a glass and a guide and some talks, and there's all sorts of breweries on there. Lost and Grounded.
Barry's back.
Adam's gone again.
What about, to distract away from Adam's Barry impression again, what about Chef Hopfest? Can we organise some sort of Chef Hopfest online little beer festival?
That's a great idea. We'd have to do it whereby, I don't know, like I guess you do your Thrifty 50 boxes, like a Hopcast box that there's a limited number of or whatever, and over the course of a evening or something, drink along with us. That could work.
I was thinking more, what's the maximum number you can have on Zoom in anyone?
Hundreds.
Our listeners and watchers want to join us.
I think you can do that. Hundreds. Yeah. Plenty enough. You can get 100 on the free version, but even though we're limited to 40 minutes or whatever. But not a bad idea. Flesh it out. Sean, come up with a little pack.
Interval entertainment. Barry White live in concert.
I'm still.
No, you're all right now. You're all right now. You're all right.
The rest of it's up to you.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. I like it. So, Darren, other than homebrew, from a beer point of view, how have you been kind of finding things over lockdown? I guess from a non-beer point of view, you mentioned before about being on furlough. What's your kind of lockdown experience been like?
Well, for me, it's been okay. I'm a supply teacher, so it was quite a relief to get out of that environment. I've got to say, surrounded by 12 and 13-year-olds coughing in your face.
Yeah.
So, although I was a bit worried at first about the financial implications about not being at work, to get myself on furlough, and I'm not spending any money on travelling and that kind of thing. So I'm surviving. Yeah, it's not too bad. Getting out for a run down again and just plodding on.
You're in Scunthorpe, Darren?
Sorry?
Are you from Scunthorpe?
I'm from Scunthorpe. Yeah. I've lived in Scunthorpe all my life, really. So it's a bit of a small town with a small town mentality, with very few decent pubs, but we survive. That's why I have to come to Sheffield from a beer.
There seems to be a very close link between Scunthorpe and Sheffield. There are one or two Scunny types who live in Sheffield, of course, and then a real gang of you that via beer club seem to have a close association. Laura and Richard at Archer Roader in beer club as well. So there seems to be it almost feels like a twin town sort of beer club. Sheffield and Scunny, with a bit of Donny thrown in there as well.
Well, it's nice to have a bit of civilization, isn't it?
On that subject of not spending very much money, I don't know if this is other people's kind of findings from lockdown, but I found rent and bills obviously still my biggest monthly outgoings, and then the food bill's kind of gone up because you can't go to restaurants, so you're just spending everything on your supermarket shop every week. But then I think my beer bill is kind of like, it's become third place. That's probably my third biggest expenditure a month is just on beer.
Yeah.
It probably was before, to be honest.
Saved a lot more money, but I think I've saved a lot more money. But I suppose not going to pubs has saved me a lot of money, and travel. Getting stuff, when you're at work, buying extra things for your lunch, or nipping to Greg's for a cheeky breakfast sandwich and all that sort of stuff. It all adds up.
James, you would have spent a lot on football, James, I would have thought. Have you been watching some of the German football this afternoon? The first sign of football for months?
I haven't. I'm saving myself. So the team that I support, St. Pauli, I've got the T-shirt on there.
I respect them today. They're in the second division, though, aren't they?
They are in Zweibundesliga, yeah. So they play tomorrow at 12:30. So I've got a load of friends. So there's actually about 100 people from across the world that we're doing like a virtual screening of the match together tomorrow. So that'll be really good. But no, I've not watched any of the ones today. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the screening tomorrow, but I'm not happy about it because it seems ridiculous that they're already back playing football, because it's football and I love it. But you know what? Like, lives are way more important. So it just seems ridiculous that what is clearly a contact sport is already kind of back and being played. So I think it would be a weird atmosphere. But yeah, I didn't want to watch any ones today because I kind of want my first experience of what a game without any crowd there is like, to be actually at the game itself, really. And see that tomorrow. I see that Twitter's not been particularly kind on the experience of games without a crowd this afternoon, so I'm not really expecting very much from it. Today's absolutely flown. We've only got a few minutes left. Laura, what's your beer like?
It's great. I'm really enjoying it. It's just very classic, very clean. I think Keller beers are slightly lower carbonated than some of the lager styles, so it's even easier to drink because it's not too, sometimes when they're really fizzy, you have to sort of be a bit careful when you're drinking them, or I do anyway. Whereas this, you can just so it's nearly all gone in record time. And this cup, by the way, I drink everything out of this. It's the best glass. Well, it's not glass, is it? But it's the best vessel.
Vessel. Good word, vessel. It looks very sturdy.
Yeah.
Do you keep it by your bed? You could use it to assault anyone that broke into your house as well.
Yeah. Bedtime water and emergency tool.
I think that comes under the gulper, wouldn't it? If you go by my renaming
type
of the
of
different
emergency?
sizes.
I like it. Unsurprisingly, the zygote, which I don't know what that means, but it's a fantastic word, zygote, is, as you would expect, is brilliant. And you get all the flavours. Salted caramel, choc chip cookie. It does actually taste like a cookie, which is phenomenal. And it's brilliant. And it also, after a couple of mouthfuls, it really allows you to forget that it's 10.5%. When you first taste it, you realise it's 10.5%. And then very quickly, it just doesn't feel it. In fact, it feels a little bit gentle. It's not kind of fighting in the way that a lot of imperial stouts do. So I'm very impressed, and congratulations to Norway, who should have been the winners of last year's Eurovision, but definitely win my beer of the weekend so far. Adam, what's yours like?
Really, sorry, really, really good. Just on the Zygote, that was probably my beer of 2018. I think I had it really late on. Adam in the shaky said, "Try this," and yeah, it's a fantastic beer. So go and get it. Yeah, this is really good. I bought a can of it a few weeks ago because my wife really likes kind of sours, and I thought, oh, I felt guilty that I was buying loads of cans, so I bought one of these, tasted it, and I thought, shit, I wish I'd got myself one of those. In a good way, it tastes like lime cordial. Like neat lime cordial. It's got that really kind of like puckering kind of like sort of sourness to it, but it's not like overly sour. It's really limey and sort of, yeah, I would say lime's the main flavour I get from that.
I've
really
got one
good.
I've got one in the fridge. How do you think it will go off the back of a 10.5% salted
Have a glass of
caramel
water between it,
choc chip? Yeah,
or
yeah.
a sorbet.
Right,
Like
it's time,
sorbet.
it's time to put Darren on the spot and ask him for his review of his own beer.
Right, okay. I'm going to be modest about it. Let's face it, there's plenty to be modest about there. It's okay. It's got a bit of a stay sunny type funk about it. It's got quite sweet in a way as well. What I would really like it to have been like was Jack Doe from Dan from a couple of weeks ago, but it's not like that. It's drinkable. You can tell it's a saison. It's not the worst beer I've ever made. It's not the best, but you know, not as good as the glass that it's in. Wild Horse from Llandudno, great brewery.
Excellent, good glass. And finally, then to Sean for his beer review, and also obviously you've had half an hour now to come up with a theme for next week. So we await your decision.
Right. A couple of things before my beer then. One, Zygote is all over Sheffield, James, at the moment. And so plenty of beer shops will have that. So if anybody is impressed by your review of it, then dive in. Amundsen are also releasing 3 brand new of their dessert in a can ranges, and they'll land into Sheffield's various shops next week as well. Some really interesting new flavours, including mango and raspberry popsicle, or it could be mango popsicle. There's a pistachio one as well. So lots to look forward to there. My beer is just stunning and yeasty, lots of dark fruits, raisins and sultanas and all that type of thing. Exactly the style I love from Belgium. So really, really enjoyed it. And I haven't given much thought to next week's theme, of course, because I'd forgotten all about that. But I think that we should all drink a beer inspired by our guests. And I've already got my beer. I've already got my beer inspired by our guests. So that's me sorted for next week.
Oh, well, good. Right.
I think I know what I'm reading between the lines. I think I know what beer it is. So I might,
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. You'll have to tune back in next week to find out how we fare on that one. All right. A beer inspired by our guests. Fair enough. Right.
We do confuse ourselves a lot when we're talking midweek, and this week was particularly bad for us, forgetting who our guests were, what day of the week it was, what time we were on. And so, am I right in thinking that next week is Sunday?
Yep.
6 p.m.
Yep.
and it's out and about. Michael and Heather.
Yep.
Bang on.
Do you want to give out your
They've
home
just
address at the
released a
same time
beer.
or anything? Any other personal details that you want to slip in there? Mobile phone
Well,
number?
I struck a look, but they've just released a beer.
Last 3 digits on your card.
Email sean@conservatory.co.uk.
My card security code is 535.
Right, we've got less than a minute left, so we're going to have to wrap it up. We need to do our quick beer selfie that we always do. So beers and cans and bottles in the air, if you would do, and nice big smiles and poses. That's good. And Darren, thank you. Lovely to virtually meet you, and keep brewing those saisons. Everyone else, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Darren.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thanks.
Bye.